Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa, and this is my mom, Donana, for LTC, and her little pup,
Kaya wants to go Betty by.
Kaya. She's really tired and doesn't know why we're keeping her up. But we just wanted to have a little fam bam pout. Wow, she's snorting already. So mom wanted to see her favorite child, Johnny Litecoin. It's Thursday. So we'll be right back with Johnny Litecoin, the chosen one, right after this. Merry Christmas, Johnny. Good to see you.
Merry Christmas, Lisa. Merry Christmas, Nana.
Hey, Johnny.
Don't forget Kaya.
Oh,
You might lose your place in the family.
Merry
Just
Christmas,
saying.
Kaya.
You might come in a close second. I'm just saying.
Merry Christmas, everyone out there.
Yes, Merry Christmas to everybody in the chat and everybody watching later. We really appreciate you guys watching, and all your comments really help, and we love hearing the feedback as well. I needed to reach out to one of my little brothers, one of my many little brothers, and pick his brain because breaking news, El Salvador is bending the knee or bending over. I'm not really sure what's happening. I really need some help. What is going on with this? They are making a deal with the IMF. They're shutting down their wallet. Is this good or bad for
Great news? Great
the people
news.
Okay.
Great news. I'll explain why. Because their wallet,
unpack this for me.
Their wallet is a centralized wallet, meaning it's not a non-custodial wallet. So the El Salvadorian government has control of it.
So is this the only wallet that, I'm sorry to talk to you.
No problem. Ask the questions because this is good because other people
have a lot of questions with this. So is this the only wallet that people in El Salvador are allowed to hold Bitcoin in?
No, they could use any wallet they want.
Okay.
Any Bitcoin wallet that they want. So all the options, Exodus and all these other wallets, they could use that.
Okay.
So if you notice in the article, El Salvador is getting a loan from the IMF. So here's why I think this is such a great move that they're doing.
Okay.
The IMF is very critical on Bitcoin and Bitcoin adoption and all of that. And remember what I always say, how the U.S. government doesn't operate on its with the banking system, doesn't go by the rules and laws of the U.S. government. It's something different.
Okay.
So now the El Salvadorian government taking a loan from the IMF, they would have to play ball with those rules. And they'd say, well, your Chivo wallet, you can now have to censor transactions because now they would have to adhere to all the AML KYC stuff.
Okay.
In compliance with that. So now they just said, no problem. We're shutting down the Chivo wallet, but we're still acquiring Bitcoin for their strategic reserve. It says in the article, even at a possibly accelerated pace than they're doing now.
Well, that's what I was confused about. Where are they putting the Bitcoin that they're putting in their strategic reserve? And why is that okay with the IMF as long as they don't use the Chivo wallet? Why does the IMF not like the Chivo wallet, but okay with them still accumulating Bitcoin?
Because here's the thing. Who cares about the AMF or like the rules of the IMF if they're just acquiring Bitcoin? That's not illegal. You could acquire it, but as far as using it goes, then they'd say you have to run like the Chainalysis stuff and all that, and then censor transactions. And then it would put a bad taste out there for Bitcoin if people are like, hey, the transactions are being censored or stopped. This isn't a freedom thing. You know what I mean?
So it's
I think it's worse than
Bitcoin-
using their paper currency. But the
so
other
Bitcoin won't
factor
be
is,
used as money. Then it will be a store of value, but it won't be a currency.
Be like a government.
no, it's still legal tender. It's remaining legal tender, but the acceptance now moves to voluntary instead of mandatory, which is also a good thing. I'll explain why.
Okay.
Say Bitcoin, that chain, Bitcoin, because that's what they're talking about here, is legal tender, and you're selling fruit on the beach. The transaction's $2, and you have to accept it in Bitcoin because it's legal tender. And they're part of their, if the legal tender laws say we're forcing you to accept it. They may like the idea of crypto and say, well, it's too expensive to do anything with at that point in time. You know what I mean? If they want to send it, because a Bitcoin transaction fee is a couple dollars.
I'm not unpacking this all the way still. Sorry.
So say,
Blonde
okay, say they force so they're going from forcing the people to accept Bitcoin to saying it's voluntary. In other words, it's legal tender, it's voluntary, but if you don't, we're not going to force you to accept it. You may want to accept Litecoin instead, or another crypto, because it works better for these.
It's not forced anymore.
It's not forced anymore.
Okay, I understand that.
So I think that's actually a good thing that it's not forced.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I thought legal tender meant that you were forced to accept it.
Knowledge.
It's just in it.
You can use
You
it
can
legally.
use it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because if I was taking really small transactions, I wouldn't want Bitcoin either.
Right.
I would say I'm accepting cryptos, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Digibyte, other coins. But if it was like Bitcoin, if I'm selling something of value, sure. Like I'm selling jewelry, I'm selling something that's a couple $100 in value. Take Bitcoin all day long, but not if you're selling things a couple dollars. That's where.
So how does El Salvador benefit by getting a loan from the IMF? Are they buying more Bitcoin for their strategic reserve? Kind of like Michael Saylor takes,
Maybe. I guess it's
business loans to buy more Bitcoin to pump up his stocks. I mean, is that?
Yeah, I mean, they're getting money at a really cheap price.
Mm-hmm.
So with the rate of inflation.
And if the banks go down, then that debt won't exist, and they'll have bought their Bitcoin.
They got 1.4 billion to do whatever they want with at a super low interest rate. If the banks go down, they turned it into something else.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Because I always think about if you take a loan from somebody, then you're beholden to, what do they say? The slave is, or I'm a terrible quoter.
Well, they are for the rules of the use of transactions in the society. Remember, they want to police the common people.
Mm-hmm.
So so I think this is all a good thing. I think this is definitely a net positive, because if they kept accepting transactions in that Chivo wallet, or said, hey, we're going to keep it going, then the IMF has control of it. The IMF doesn't have control of people's Exodus or Coinomi or Ledger or Trezor.
Right.
Or those wallets. But the Chivo wallet, because it was a custodial wallet controlled by the El Salvadorian government, because of that, then if you take their money, you're right, you're beholden to their rules. Now they say, okay, we have control of the Chivo wallet. So El Salvador just said, no problem, we're just shutting it down. Then they can sell this to the public like it's a good thing, because people don't understand this whole thing.
It'd be similar to like leaving your coins that you purchased on an exchange in supposedly your wallet on the exchange, which is actually their wallet. It's centralized. I mean, until you take that off and put it in your own private wallet, it's a custodial wallet for
So
this.
that's what El Salvador is doing, is taking custody of their Bitcoin, taking it off the Chivo centralized wallet.
Exactly.
Individuals, yes.
Yes.
It'd be the kind of like the same as like saying all of a sudden, I'm going to shut down all the banks and we just issue paper currency to everybody. And now and it's just going to float however it floats. Now the IMF has no control. But if the say the US did that to us now. They said, all right, you still have access to all your money, but we're just going to shut down the banks so that way they can't bother you anymore. Now it just goes to a cash economy, silver, maybe cryptos, have a free for all. The banks are shut down. This way they can't bother you guys anymore, right? Think about we would love that move as if a president did that. We would be like, oh my God, this is the best day ever. So that's essentially what Bukele did with this move.
Very interesting. So he's giving the money back to the people.
The freedom back to the people, because he's saying, hey, we don't want to have to bother you and censor you. And now we don't even control the wallet anymore. The IMF controls it at that point in time. It's kind of like the equivalent of when money is in our banks here. Do we really control it? No, the banking system controls it.
Because the middleman.
Same idea with Bitcoin that was in the Chivo wallet there. But before, the El Salvadorian government was watching out for it because they wanted Bitcoin adoption. But now they probably just said risk reward. There's so many wallets. Why do they have to have a centralized wallet? They can take this loan from the IMF. It's cheap money, put it into Bitcoin, improve their country, do whatever they want. Banking system, these people might be going bye-bye anyways, and they don't owe them. So there's so many positives to, I guess, taking the money if they don't have the control. Remember, El Salvador is there's a banking system like we have in the US.
Oh, okay. They don't have a Fed or centralized.
Bitcoin's legal tender. I mean, yeah, so it's different. Bitcoin and the US dollar is legal tender. I don't think they even have their own currency or use their own currency.
Well, and Milei in Venezuela had run on making the US dollar like their legal tender to try to free them and get. So I see this trend of trying to decentralize or getting rid of the middleman. If we get rid of our central bank, if there was that movement to that could be really interesting to see some kind of domino effect with that. So how would this affect? I saw Aaron Day post that Max Kaiser is probably puking his guts up at this announcement because of his bags. How does this affect Bitcoin maxis? Would they be excited about this move? Is this a positive thing for Bitcoin or?
Well, Bitcoin maxis, remember, they hate our freedom. So for them, they probably hate this because they probably like the idea of this Chivo wallet. They don't care if we can, and now they can accept other cryptos and say no Bitcoin.
Oh, that's why.
For Bitcoin maxis, this is bad. Yeah. For them, this
really opens up free markets for any coin.
Yeah,
it opens up free market for any coin.
I see.
But the promise of Bitcoin, which you got to give it to Bitcoin, it is scarce. There's only 21 million. It has a huge hash rate. So for that store of value, does work for that. So for them to keep filling their strategic Bitcoin reserve, that's smart. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and he's really leveraging that opportunity. I mean, they're coming to him and he's making them, it feels like a little bit of a bull. I'm thinking of the Trump Matador 107 thing where he's like, sure, I'll play your game. Give me your loan and I'll turn it into Bitcoin and,
and now do that move.
Rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about.
That move. And that's how I I mean, that's how I see it, but that is the truth, what I'm telling you. It's not like that's, so whether that was the motive or not, that's at least a super positive outcome out of it. You know what I mean? But I would think that would be the reason why, because why would they just shut down the wallet all of a sudden? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense otherwise, especially now if they said Bitcoin's not legal tender, we're not going to keep buying Bitcoin, we're shutting down the wallet. Now that'd be bad news. Now that'd be like, oh, wow, they're really like throwing in the towel. But the fact that they're saying they're still buying it, it's still legal tender, just the acceptance of it's voluntary. But it's funny how the news spins it. They're like, this was to appease the IMF and stuff. And it's like,
that's why I was so confused about the article. I was like, wait a minute, they're bending a knee. What's
fake news? And see how it's spun, just to just to put a bad that way. It's like, see, like they're bending the knee.
Yeah. So if they're not holding it in the Chivo wallet, because it is Bitcoin and so it's open blockchain, are you able to see where they are holding it?
You mean the government?
Yeah.
Well, the Chivo wallet was for the people to use. The Chivo wallet wasn't necessarily where the government holds their Bitcoin.
So it wasn't the government's reserves. It was the individuals.
That's the government wallet for all the people to use.
What forces all the individual citizens in El Salvador to choose another wallet.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's what I meant. I should have made that more clear. And I said government. Well, it's the wallet that everybody was. Okay. Everybody. That's the wallet they gave everyone the free Bitcoin in, and they said, okay, we control this wallet software, and that they could censor transactions of like, citizen Mary that lives down there and said, hey, whoa, she was on a gambling site. That's against IMF rules. Take all her money.
No for you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. I was thinking it was the wallet that the government was holding their reserves in, but that makes more sense.
No, they would probably hold their reserves in some type of non-custodial multi-signature solution.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
Wow, it'd be interesting to see if you could scan and see which wallet just opened the most new addresses in El Salvador. Is there a way to do that to scan?
Probably, but
not me.
The wallet itself could probably put out data on that.
Yeah, different wallets could run reports. That
might even be inaccurate because a lot of people use VPNs. They download a wallet. They say they're in another country or place. And as far as the blockchain goes, you don't know if it's the same wallet, a new wallet, a different wallet. It just shows you it's a new address.
Well, yeah, you could open one person could open multiple wallets.
Yeah.
I just wondered if with this announcement, I would think there'd be a little spike.
You would think.
Yeah.
You would think. I would think this would be good for adoption of other cryptos, though.
Yeah.
And now they're not just forcing Bitcoin down people's throats.
Especially wallets that had great use case with like inner wallet swaps. And like, what would you see? What wallets would you think would be some of the most downloaded? That would be like, I'm thinking like the Cake, the
Exodus for me is like
yeah.
Exodus is a great starter wallet. Now there's some things about Exodus that I wish they created a new address every time instead of using that same address. It's one thing I don't. But other than that, Exodus is smooth. Always, I think you want something that's smooth for people's onboarding experience. You don't want something that's really glitchy. Exodus, how it updates, just everything. I don't know. I just think it's a smooth experience. So I would always recommend that as like a first thing. But I love Cake and the other wallets too, Just I think they're more for somebody that's, and look, it sounds trivial, but a cake wallet's 24 seed words and an Exodus wallet's 12 seed words. I guess if somebody's first.
Oh, lazy. Oh my gosh.
People are late. People are lazy. So
lazy.
People are very lazy. But let me explain something else about Bitcoin. Back to these small transactions, that kind of makes the Bitcoin blockchain unusable for these small transactions. Because say, like I was saying, somebody selling fruit on the beach and they have a Bitcoin wallet and the government's saying Bitcoin's legal tender, you have to take Bitcoin. And they're getting paid in Bitcoin, right? Transaction after transaction after transaction. Well, how Bitcoin works, what makes the transaction fee higher is how many outputs there are when you do a transaction.
Okay. So
if you are sending into a wallet, especially a wallet that doesn't have coin control, which unless you're enabling advanced features, most people aren't using coin control. It's so many inputs in or whatever that came in. Think about it like if somebody paid you $1,000 and they gave you 10 $100 bills. That's pretty easy, right? So now you go to pay for 10 $100 bills. It's pretty easy. But now say you sold things for 2 cents each and it equaled up to 1,000. Now you have think about how hard it is to use. That's kind of like Bitcoin. And so what happens is that makes the transaction size so much bigger that it makes the fee a lot higher. So the fee for a Bitcoin transaction doesn't matter necessarily on the dollar amount of the transaction. It's how big is the data, and that data is all those pieces that came in, all those little pieces. So that's why if you had hypothetically, if you were accepting Bitcoin for payments like all the time, and it was all these little transactions, then you went to send money out and the Bitcoin network was clogged, you might have a huge transaction fee that you have to pay to send that transaction.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, that is really exciting. That is a huge relief to me, because when I saw this news, I was just like, no, the bad guys are winning. No, stop. I did have a little bit of good news here in the States that I was seeing. You guys saw like Joe Biden writing the thing telling all the federal workers that they can work from home for 5 years while Trump's in office. And then in Oklahoma, Governor Stitt wrote a counter for state workers and demanded that they come in and work in office. And he's been really writing tweets about supporting Doge and small government and all this. And so I think we're moving to that model of, small government, break away from, shut down the Fed. We watched 2 bills get shut down. Tomorrow's the 20th. The winter solstice is the 21st. We might all have a little Merry Christmas. Maybe we go back to constitutional money backed by state treasuries and,
even the fact that this stuff's all being talked about now. It's being talked about it. The public's being educated. It's very positive, I think. Everything's at least moving in the right direction. Cryptos, I feel like the good guys are definitely winning as far as cryptos goes. All the time we hear better and better news about, heard the first day with the strategic reserve, no taxes on crypto transactions. I mean, this is all amazing stuff, and it makes sense because it enables commerce, and you want commerce, and that's it makes complete sense. So even to end the Fed stuff, even the fact that that's most people, if you said that to them, they think you mean end the federal government. They just think that's what it means instead of end the Federal Reserve. They don't really understand like the Federal Reserve, like.
And they don't even know what the Federal Reserve is. Until my mother told me the Federal Reserve isn't federal and it has no reserves, I had no idea.
I didn't know what it was. I didn't like, that's why I'm doing this stuff now and talking about this stuff. I feel like I was in the right place at the right time. And I feel like life's all about take advantage of the opportunities that you're presented with. And when I kind of learned about the monetary system and like what I saw on like payments, and then when I learned about Bitcoin and how I learned about how the dollar is to be backed by gold, and I was like, oh, this stuff's so like over most people's heads, and no one's gonna like, believe what goes on behind the scenes and like the financial system. I got to at least like, be somebody that could like try to spell this out for people, make sense of it in like more of like a layman's terms kind of thing.
Yeah. Give us some insight, Nana. Give us some wisdom.
On which?
I need all of it. Tell us what you think about like the end of the year, like looking back on at least this year. Do you feel like there's been some hope in 2024 or into 2025?
Oh, I think 2024 has been chaos, really. I think by the end of this year, I no longer know what to believe half the time. I mean, obviously there's certain things that I know as truth, but every day there's a dozen headlines that the minute you read them, you have to stop. Okay, what are they really saying? Or read between the lines.
Yeah.
Is that an outright lie? And it's in some ways it's exhausting. And I expect that 2025 we're going to have a lot of chaos the first several months. But I'm hopeful that it's going to be intense, but then we're going to start seeing things kind of settle into a more rational ecosystem, and that's my hope anyway, that some sanity is restored, and that this mass hysteria with all this, jab and trans and purple hair, whatever, can kind of go away.
Purple rage.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty accurate analysis, Nana. You know what I was going to ask you, because we were talking before about money and stuff. Do you like when the dollar was unbacked by gold in 71? What was the public's perception of that? Was it something people even talked about, or how was that in the public eye back then?
I wasn't aware of the politics, because I was really young and pregnant and all that. I was more aware of how it impacted my life. And the effect wasn't immediate, but from 71 until about, maybe 6-8 years later, maybe not that long. A few years later, I was aware that housing prices had doubled, because inflation had taken off,
Yeah.
And that was my first kind of like shocker. And again, I was pretty naive about economics, everything. I didn't question why. I just, this is terrible,
So as like the 70s went on and inflation was obviously obvious to the public, like what was the public tone of what they would like blamed it on? There's mainly, it's bad politics, or was people at that point?
You not remember the song? Well, you're too young, Johnny. Jimmy Carter has a way of screwing up the USA. President has a first name, it's Jimmy.
Yeah.
My president has a second name, it's Tartar. Yeah, that was the whole song.
And not that he had good policies, but he did come in after the dollar was already unbacked by by gold. So that's interesting. I mean, like, that's kind of what I was curious about. Like, how much of the public, I guess, recognized?
I really was too young and naive at the time to be aware of it. I do remember when Reagan was running for president that there was a lot of, commotion about that. Like he was going to save America,
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't really recall.
I made him a birdhouse and wrote him a letter when he got shot. And mom made us write him letters.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute.
Yeah,
Very nice.
And I got a letter back.
Yeah, you did.
From him when he got shot. Yeah.
Well, it's funny even how I grew up in the in the 80s, and for birthdays and communion and things like that, people would get, instead of getting cash, they would get savings bonds.
Yes.
Oh.
And those were I remember that's like, because you would pay half of the face value, and I guess they matured in like 7 years or something. So if it was somebody's communion or first birthday or something like that, you want to give them something for their future. Instead of giving them $25 cash, you could give a $50 savings bond, and you only paid $25.
That's cool.
Yeah. So even how
that's it now. I heard no one's buying the bonds right now. the
yeah.
30, was it the 30-year bond or something? They were talking about it today. They were like, "Oh my God, it's dumping."
But it's crazy because the banks actually did pay the interest back then back out to the people more, where now the interest we get from the bank is so relatively low to like the profit that they make.
Oh.
So low. So it's not it's just more goes back to like shareholders, I guess, and things like that, rather than the actual depositors itself.
Yeah. I don't know how you get in on that gig. I guess you have to be an accredited investor.
Yeah. Jake says my grandma gave us silver.
That's cool.
And I mailed,
Yeah.
Lisa did it for me. Actually, my back was whacked. Mailed out the grandchildren's silver today. So.
Yeah. Nana's been doing that for years.
Nice. Very nice.
Tradition.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you think about it, silver kind of goes more with Christmas, like silver bells. Like,
yeah, that's a good thing.
If you had to think about Christmas, silver or gold, I would think silver would be the metal that would come to mind.
Yeah.
Oh, the White House was so Public and I used to do a woo and debrief the White House decorations every year when Trump was in, and even later. And they did the White House decorations video today. And of course, it's horrible. It's not as bad as last year. At least there's no eating children and gingerbread houses and all that stuff like they did last year. But this year, there's like a giant stuffed animal. Was it a reindeer? I don't know. It's very simple. And then it's silver bells on the Christmas tree. And gold boxes and silver bells.
Interesting.
And a big red, like a red carpet.
You almost wonder if that's some type of messaging.
Like you see at the movies.
I guarantee you it is.
Yeah.
We just have to
it always is. Every year it is.
Yeah.
Every year it's comms. Yeah. It's a good one. So I think, here we are, the eve of the 20th. Maybe get your popcorn. Tomorrow it would be 10 days until the 30th, which would be New Year's Eve. Then it's on the 31st. Elon's talking about, you might want to think about getting a Starlink, everyone. Santa said we were all getting new phones for Christmas. Not Santa, Trump. Sorry. He's the same person to me. Anyway, we'll see what happens. I don't know. So Merry Christmas, Johnny.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Thank you for joining us. And Mom, thanks for joining us. I know everybody wanted to see you and say.
Yeah, Nana, great. Thank you so much for coming on. Great to see you. You always have great advice for us all, and great stories and very great wisdom for us.
Yes, for sure. Well, you guys take care. Thanks for joining us in the live chat, everybody. If you're watching this later, please leave us a comment below and let us know what your Christmas wish is, your crypto Christmas wish. And if you're watching this live, go watch Westwood. I think he's starting a Spaces tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow for a little Christmas happy hour. We'll catch you guys next time. Take care.